program that deals with different issues that we discuss every single week. And you don't know how excited I am tonight. I am so excited because I've got two people that I highly, highly admire, and I've got two people that has done so well in their lives, and two friends, and we're just gonna have a good friendship talk tonight because we're discussing the topic of perseverance. And so I want to encourage you to if you're viewing us, tell us where you're viewing us, send us a message. Just welcome you on board. Thank you, Sandra, for joining us. Hilda, Euster, thank you guys for joining us. It's awesome to have you with us. I just want to remind you tomorrow and this weekend we're having communion live, and then on Friday as well we have our communion services. On Thursday it's going to be live worship, and on Sunday we're looking forward to great services. And remember, next week we'll be discussing the COVID problem that we have in our communities, and we'll get a doctor or two on board to help us to go through what's happening in our societies and our communities. So I'm looking forward to next week. But I want to get straight into our talk tonight. I've got two great men with me. And I wonder if I can just welcome you guys. I've got Russell Domingo with me. I'll start with Russell. Russell Domingo, he's the current Bangladesh coach. He was a South African cricket coach for a couple of years. And so I just would do you want to say a quick welcome there, Russell, just to say hi to the people quickly?
Hi, Fritzy. Good to see you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the chat. I know we had breakfast a couple of months ago, and really good to see you again. And good that your family's all safe, and looking forward to having a chat this evening. Hello, Ash. Good to see you.
Hello, Russ. Hello, Fritzy.
Yes.
Good evening. Can you guys hear
Yeah,
me?
Ashwell, can I just introduce you quickly? I want to give you a good introduction like Russell.
Yeah.
Uh, we've got Ashwell Prince on the other side. He is the current Cobras coach. He's also an ex-South African, or do we say ex? Yeah, ex-South African cricket player. And I don't think he needs any intro. Both of these men have got big followings, and he doesn't need any introduction if you're a cricket and a sports fan. Welcome, Ashwell. Do you want to say welcome to all the people out there?
Yeah, thank you very much, Fritzy. And it's great to join you guys on the show. And Russell, the legendary Russell, and and all the members as well from the church. So it's nice to come on and share with you guys.
Yes, thank you very, very much, man. It's wonderful having you with us. Come on, send in those messages. I see Alan Hughes. Thank you, Alan, for joining us. Lundeen Lemmer, Fernando Kaizo. He says him and his son is watching. Thank you, Fernando. And all the other guys, come on, send us a message. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us if even send in some questions. We'll try and answer whatever questions these guys have. We'll try and answer some of your questions, and tell us where you're watching from. Peter Vina, thank you for joining. I'm going to just take a minute or so just to welcome people. Come on. And also do me a favor and share. I'm going to ask all these people to share. When you share, you open it up so that more people can watch our program, and we're really excited about this evening. Gentlemen, I want to speak to you a little bit about perseverance and not giving up. I think out of all people that I know the two of you have gone through many things in your lives. You can't be at the top of anything if you haven't gone through ups and downs. And you have persevered over the years, and you guys are a shining example of to young people especially, and to others, to stick it out and to become successful. But I don't think many people know where we come from. And I say we because basically all three of us grew up in Galvindale. Myself and Russell basically grew up about a street out from each other. And Ashwell, julle was daar aan die onderkant, Ashwell. At the bottom side of Galvindale. And we played cricket together, we knew each other. And so it's really awesome to speak to you guys. I want to ask you, a question. Maybe I'll start with Ashwell. Right in the beginning, talk to me a little bit about the beginning. Your childhood. Obviously, I know your family. I know your dad, and I know Lloyd and your mom, and so on, and Michael, and so on. Tell me, what impact did your family have in the beginning on your career, on your success right now?
Yeah, I think Fritz, obviously, I mean, when you're in that moment, you don't kind of recognize the impact that your family have around you, the support structure around you. My parents, my father, obviously, just like Russell's father, never missed a game. Really, always there. My mother wasn't really too keen on soccer and the cricket. Really, actually, she used to enjoy coming to the track. In those days, I used to run for the school as well. She used to enjoy coming to the track and watching.
You were quite a sprinter, right?
I was a bit of a sprinter in those days as well. Yeah, I reckon I had Russell covered over 100 meters. But anyway, so I mean, like when you're a youngster, when you're a child, you don't quite recognize the impact that they have. But my parents were always there supporting me. Like I said, my father was always watching all the games, and that kind of support was really important. Also, I think Lloyd played a massive part in my career. I mean, Lloyd was obviously the big brother, and I was just trying to follow in his footsteps. Really, he represented EP in 4 different sport codes: rugby, cricket, soccer, tennis, all obviously, out of Chapman, the mighty Chapman, as Russell. And the sport was always in the family. So I was kind of the youngster, have to tag along with my father, who played only really played league cricket or club cricket at the highest level. And then obviously Lloyd and even Fritzy, yourself, Russell, those guys, you guys are a couple of years older than me, kind of trying to follow in the footsteps. I mean, I remember you mentioning that we used to live down the bottom. I remember watching you walk across the park, quite a few times a week, down to the nets at the grounds where you guys with the big bag, where you guys used to walk down to the grounds, all the way down to the grounds at the bottom there, where you had to go and practice. And that's, so these things I kind of saw all around me. And, being the youngest in my family, and obviously following a few years behind you guys, you just kind of try to follow in the footsteps, and when you look back at it, you see all these people that kind of played a role in your development, and now you can really see what kind of impact I suppose all of you guys have had. I mean, Russell has made some major sacrifices for all of us and for Galvindale in those days. His captaincy, and his basically chairman, and basically he was everything for us at Galvin in those days.
Thank you, Ashwell. Russell, I knew your dad, obviously Uncle Wendell. I knew he was vigorous. He was always he was on us. He would, if I wouldn't score, and I know me and you had a couple of partnerships already in our lives, school cricket, from school to club to Avalon United or whatever. And your father used to so much shout me as well if I didn't score. So I knew he was really for you at that stage. Yeah, right. So what influence did your family have, Uncle Wendell and your family, have on you in the beginning?
No, it's Ashwell's spot on. It's when I think of what our parents did, I don't know how they did it, because us as modern day parents, it's so difficult to put the sort of time in with our children like they used to. I mean, Ashwell's mother used to watch me at the athletics track, but my mother used to, instead of taking me to the athletics track, I'd be swimming at the Galvindale pools at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was a provincial high school and junior school swimmer, so I used to swim 2 or 3 hours every single morning. And my mother would make sure that I got there, and she would take me. I don't know if I'm taking my kids to the pool at 5 o'clock in the morning today. And then in the afternoon, they'd make sure we had soccer, they'd make sure we had cricket, they'd make sure we've got lunch. It is unbelievable the sort of roles that our parents played. My father was, and I'm very wary of not being sort of not as pushy as my father was, but putting as much pressure on my children as my father put on me. He meant absolutely, I mean, the best intentions in the world, but I was probably a little bit soft, I suppose. Now when I think about it in later years, that I didn't quite deal well with the pressure that he put on me to try and do well at cricket and try and perform. And I'm trying to be very wary of not doing that to my kids. But if it weren't for my father, I definitely wouldn't have gone where I am in cricket now. He did absolutely everything to try and make me successful as a cricket player, as a person, and I'll forever be grateful for that type of support. So the role models that our parents played was unbelievable, and just the support that they gave us and the sort of example they tried to set for us is something that is etched in my, I mean, both my parents are not here anymore, but it's something that I try and strive to do with my kids as best as I possibly can, to try and teach them the lessons that my parents have taught me, because it's invaluable. And we are in such a fortunate position now, and I say to my wife that how our parents had to struggle, things that we take for granted now as parents, our parents didn't have in those
Yeah.
days. The sort of lifestyles that we can have now and book our child a flight if he's got to play cricket somewhere, they didn't have those sorts of advantages. We used to drive everywhere to go to cricket or get a lift with someone or get in a bus. Nowadays, it's totally different. The kids nowadays are so fortunate, whereas our parents weren't afforded any of those benefits that we are affording our children now.
So the reason I was asking that is because I think that surely grounded us to be who we are today. And sort of we're talking about perseverance and not giving up. Um, so so the real question, or the reason I asked that, is because we have a lot of people out there that doesn't have that backing. Father is not in the home, or people are not there to give them that support, and that's why it's important for mentors and other people to come alongside of, especially those young, especially we're talking about sports people or just young people in general, to come alongside of you in your time, especially in the beginning stages. So Ashwell, who was the people other than your family? How important was mentoring? Who was the people that sort of came alongside of you? Can you remember? I know Mr. Simon, we all know him. We're all from Galvandale, but for me, for instance, it was my brothers. They started Avalon United those years, and they sort of pushed, but they my family. Is there anybody else that you could point out that was a mentor that helped you on the way?
Yeah, look, I think I've mentioned it before in a couple of other interviews or chats. I mean, obviously at Galvandale Cricket Club, there was Mr. Simon. There was a lot more people other than Mr. Simon that maybe sometimes don't get the credit. I mean, you guys will be familiar with the Barry family. I mean, they played a massive role. Reggie, Gary,
Yeah.
Charles Barry. Gary would come down on a Friday afternoon and coach us. And like Russell said, these guys, they didn't get anything for it. I mean, we are coaches these days, and it's like our job. We get a salary for it. In those days, it was, they loved the game, and they love, putting into to the youngsters their time and energy and efforts. And then on a Saturday morning, Gary also used to coach our team. Charles used to be umpires in most of those games. Charles Barry used to be umpires in most of those games, and then obviously Reggie and Lloyd, yourself, you guys all played either in the first team, second team, whatever the case may be. So that family was also massive, I'd say. And then, for me as a youngster, somebody that played a very, very similar role to Mr. Simon was obviously at Swallows, the soccer club, was Mr. Les Assumption, better known as Sampis in those days.
Yeah.
Mr. Les Assumption was basically, played exactly the same role as Mr. Claude Simon. I think the similarities between those two people, they both didn't have cars. I don't think they ever owned any cars. They walked all over Galvandale, sort of recruiting youngsters into the junior structures of Galvandale Cricket and Swallows Football Club, and they did everything for us, and like Russell said, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have vehicles or anything like that, but they made it happen. They sacrificed their time and I'd say Mr. Samshin, Les was a lot more forceful than Mr. Simon. Mr. Simon was very kind of hand around the shoulder type of guy, where Les Assumption was very very different. You can almost compare the two to Arsene Wenger and Alex Ferguson,
Wow.
where the one would give you the hairdryer treatment and the other one is like the professor. Mr. Simon was like the professor.
Yeah.
So those two guys played a massive role. And then obviously, like I said, my father, my mother, and Lloyd, especially in the family. And those families, the Barrys, the Blow family was massive in Garvendale cricket as well.
Yeah.
And then just our peers, a lot of guys there from local guys, and we just wanted to do well for the club.
Yeah. Well, there's an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, and that's most definitely true. It's not just our parents. And I guess the same with you, Russell. There was mentors early.
I think,
go for it.
I think, Fritzy, one of the most important things for us in our upbringing was the teachers at the schools that we were at. So whereas our parents would provide all the support and guidance and discipline for us at home, but when we went to school, and we spent a lot of time at school in those days, we had some teachers that were very strict but really good role models for us. I think like at junior school, I think of Mr. Stephen Dry, who ended up being my coach at Galvendale. But I mean, Mr. Dry he was like a legend at Hotspurs. He was a hell of a cricketer. Every time he told us a story, they got 100 or 5 wickets. He never ever failed, Mr. Dry. But I mean, he was a great role model for us. Then at high school, you think of like Max Jordan, Trevor Dolly, Mr. Serpentine, Mr. Benjamin, from a spiritual point of view and as a role model, as a headmaster, was as good a role model as you could hope to find. So I really think the teachers play a massive role in the development of the child as a person. I mean, you look at St. Thomas, all the teachers, quality teachers were there at Galvin High, and it's no coincidence that a whole host of successful people have come, not saying successful, but people that have gone on and achieved something, whether it's in sport or in business or in their careers, have come out of that 90s, 2000, late 80s era when teaching and the teachers available at the schools were unbelievable role models and really good teachers, not just academically, but also teachers of life. I think of Donovan Carencross. I failed an accountancy test. I got 30 out of 50 in an accountancy test. And he threatened he's going to phone my mother, and I took the phone off the hook for 2 days. But
I remember Mr. Donovan Carencross. Yes,
they were fantastic role models for all of us as sports coaches, but also as human beings.
Yeah, guys, I guess both of you have gone through a lot, right? Ups and downs in your life, and because we're speaking about perseverance, let me just greet some more people just to welcome people on. We have the lady Sandra. She's watching from Mauritius. Can you believe it? Mauritius. Hi, Sandra. Thank you. Watching us from Mauritius. And then we have John Ray Adams from Cape Town. Thank you, John Ray, for watching. Karen Falkers. Thank you for watching, Karen. Ilusha Peterson from Cape Town as well. Kathleen Gelderboom Geswind watching. Thank you, guys. Please send messages. Please send questions. Thank you for watching tonight. We're talking about perseverance and never giving up. Guys, you don't have to tell me, but I know there must have been moments in your career where you felt like throwing in the towel. Has there been moments like that, or have you always been?
I'll stop because I think Ashwell's got more to talk about because of his playing career. But as a coach, I don't think there's ever been a time where I've thought, no, I'm gonna throw in a towel. There've been times where things are really tough, and I'll never forget losing a game when I was the Warriors coach. The team got bowled out for 60 in a T20 game, and the sort of abuse that we took was like unbelievable because the Warriors have always been sort of the whipping boys in South African cricket, and it was almost sort of a watershed moment for me where as a coach I said, no, something's got to change. I've either got to clear out the playing staff and get in guys like Ashwell and David Jacobs and 1 or 2 younger players, but the thought of giving up was never really an option for me. You've got to fight through, because for every good day you're going to have as a cricket coach, or maybe as a cricketer, you're going to have 5 or 6 really bad days. You probably have more bad days than you have good days playing cricket. It's such a tough game. So I think it teaches you a lot about life, because there are a lot of challenges in cricket that's completely out of your control, particularly as a coach. Whether you're successful or not doesn't always depend on you. So you've got to deal with success and failure in a very mature way, because if your happiness in life depends on whether you're winning a cricket game or not as a coach, you're going to have a miserable life, because you're going to lose lots of cricket games.
Wow.
That's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make peace with the fact that you're going to lose a lot of cricket games. And it's true in life. You're going to have some good days, some deals you're going to get, some deals you're not going to get. Some girls you're going to fall in love with, some girls not going to fall in love with you. You're just going to have to deal with it at some stage.
I recommend that all children, boys and girls, must play cricket, because when I spoke to my own boys as well, it teaches you about rejection. It teaches you about failure. You score 100 1 week, and then the first ball you get a nick the next game. So you were a hero, and now, or you score 100 and then you drop a catch later. So
yeah, Ashwell,
you have those up and
that.
Yeah, you have those up and downs. Ashwell, has there been really low moments for you in your career? How did you get out of it?
There's been lots of low moments. I just want to echo what Russell says, that I can promise you now, coaching is a whole lot harder than facing even the best bowlers in the world. I can promise you that. It's a whole lot harder. Look, I mean, if you just compare the two, you're preparing to play against Shane Warne, Brett Lee, Glenn McGrath, whatever the case may be. All you have to worry about is that you are fine-tuned, that you've trained, you prepared properly, you feel that you've tuned yourself in for the match, whatever, mentally, physically, technically, whatever you have to do. But then when you become coach, there's 18 of those guys that you have to get into the same frame of mind. And obviously, everybody in their personal lives are going through whatever they're going through at home. And those type of things, sometimes you just have no control over. And so like Russell says, I mean, as a coach, it's way, way harder than being a player. So that, I mean, that you learn along the way. But in terms of giving up, like Russell says, again, there's never been that option. I think if I must think back to the time, and it always gets a little bit kind of, tough to talk about, but you have to talk about the reality. I mean, I'm talking way back, sort of early 90s, just after Unity, kind of, you guys were all involved in that sort of transition period, coming out of Sacco Sport into sort of UCB, or that at the time was, what was it? Yeah, UCB, United Cricket Board of South Africa. And for the first time, being allowed to compete against the white schools, white clubs, whatever the case may be. And it was, I suppose in my position, I was kind of fortunate, although it was unfortunate for those guys before me, maybe you guys included, to see how the guys were treated, being invited to the nets at EP once or twice. I mean, it happened in my house, obviously, with Lloyd being invited. I mean, I'm on a chat with the Galvindale group, and it's quite unanimous on that group that Lloyd was a better batsman than me.
By the way, I think so too. I think maybe not afterwards, but in the beginning stages, Lloyd was an amazing batsman.
Absolutely, and I saw that in my own household, where that generation, just 5, I mean, he's 6 years older than me, being invited to EP, to the B-side training sessions once or twice, never really being given a chance, kind of the perception that, white is always going to be better, and those guys who are coming from the Sacco side, well, you guys have got to come and learn from us. We will show you how to play cricket, and we'll show you what cricket is all about, and I saw that firsthand, and I've played with many cricketers over the years that that weren't as good as my brother. First class. I mean, I'm talking about people who played the game professionally. They weren't as good as him. But kind of getting into professional sport with that in the back of your mind, and not just him. I'm talking about a lot of other players, that went just before me and would deny these kind of opportunities. Andre Peters. I mean, there were pictures floating around the other day of during lockdown of Andre Peters being in that last sort of SACB team, the South African Cricket Board team that was selected in 1991, I think. And these guys never really got an opportunity to play the game professionally, first class level, or even for the country, And so when you talk about giving up, it was like it was never an option to give up, because maybe I added a little bit more pressure to myself over my career. I reckon if I didn't have to carry that burden, it's not like those people put the burden on me. I put it on myself, that I've got to go and play for those people. I've got to play to show the world that where I come from and the guys that came before me, they were as good, if not better than me, and that our people can play. That's what I played with on my shoulders. I took that into the game, every game, to prove to the world that our people can play, because ultimately, if we didn't do that on the bigger stage, then people still today would doubt our people. And it's not about Ashwell Prince's career. Today, one of my great friends and former teammates, Vernon Philander, it is his birthday today. I mean, these guys, Vernon Philander, Hashim Amla, Tsobe, another PE boy who played under Russle, Imran Tahir, I said Hashim Amla, Makant. These guys have gone on Rabada to become the #1 players in the world, the best in the whole world. And, we're coming from, I'm talking back from an era where we were regarded as, these guys don't know anything about this game. And, we've got to come. Listen, it's not about black being better than white, or white being or trying to prove that we're better. But it was definitely a case of having to prove our worth. In those days, you kind of had to come and prove your worth and play for your people. And so with that in the back of your mind, is like, you can't give up. You have to keep fighting.
Yeah. So, in other words, there was a reason for you. There was a motivation that other people didn't have to motivate you constantly. There's an inward motivation that sort of pulls you towards your goal, if I can put it like that, on a regular basis.
I often think about that. You watch these documentaries about the West Indies, Fire in Babylon, and there's a lot of similarities there, because they wanted to prove to the world the same thing. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to prove to the world that as black people, they didn't want it. It wasn't about being better than white, but it was about equality. They wanted to be treated the same, and they could express that by going onto the field and showing what they were capable of. And that's what it was about. So the driving force, like you say, I mean, as much as there were other external things, it was always kind of pulling you down, pulling you back. You could see maybe some unfairness around you towards yourself, and maybe some other friends around, you could see these things happening, but you just have to, I mean, I'm watching some of these highlights the last few days, and I can't remember much of those innings. And the reason for that is the reason I can't remember much is because in that moment, all it was about keep your head down and keep going. And so when they show the highlights, you kind of like, oh, wow, okay. I mean, I can't remember that. I can't remember this. I can't remember that. Because when you're in that moment, you just keep your head down and keep going, because, you're doing it for those that went before you.
Yeah. I know both of you guys have got a deep faith. I know Ashwell and Russell, I know you believe in God and you have a faith. Tell me, how difficult is that to portray? How difficult is, for instance, to go to church on tour, or how difficult is it for you or how important, let me rather ask, how important is it to have sort of a faith, as a sportsman and going through all these ups and downs? Do you know?
Look, I think my wife beats me up. She takes me to church. She forces me to go. So she drags me out of bed on a Sunday. So no, look, it's obviously when you go to certain countries, it's not always that easy. Touring places like Bangladesh or Pakistan or Sri Lanka, not always that easy. But I think more so in terms of just giving you peace of mind and clarity, particularly when you're under pressure, particularly when there's a lot of criticism aimed at you, particularly when there's some challenges at home that you need to deal with kids and wives or security, whatever it might be, just to give you that grounding and something that you can fall back on and give you that cornerstone to know that things will be okay if you just keep your mind on the Lord, I suppose, and not try and divulge into other spheres with social media and criticism and fanfare and people. When you win a game and you've played a big role as a coach or as a player, do not take the adoration too seriously. And also when you lose a game as a coach, do not take the criticism too seriously. So it just gives you a bit of grounding and a bit of perspective as to what's really important. That look, and Ashwell made some outstanding points here. And I think a lot of the young people, particularly in the northern areas, don't have his mental fortitude or his strength of character to keep fighting, because he's had lots of setbacks. Whereas maybe after 3 or 4 setbacks with the modern day young person, they'll just give up because they want things instantly. It's a world of instant gratification. That if you want something, you get it online. If you want Wi-Fi is not working for 5 minutes, it's an issue. They want things instantly. So I think it's a great lesson for a lot of the younger people and a lot of the younger cricketers nowadays to make sure that you see the bigger picture. And we're all going to face setbacks as a coach or as a player or as a person. And just to make sure that you've got your mind focused, number one, on your faith, and number two, to make sure that your mind's focused on what you really want to achieve as a person and as a player or as a businessman or as a preacher, whatever it is, but making sure that your focus is exactly there. But my favorite musician is a guy called Luther Vandross. And Luther Vandross's mother always told him that, Luther, you've got to have another option if you don't make it in singing. And he said that was never in his mind, because if he knew if he had another option, he'd be okay with being turned down. So he wouldn't push himself hard enough. He made sure that he wants to be a singer. He's going to do absolutely everything to make sure he's going to be a singer. Even if he gets turned down by 5 or 6 producers, he's going to keep going because that's what he really wants to do. And it's a great lesson for a lot of people that if they don't not successful on the first time or the second time or the third time, they just give up and they try and do something else. Luther Vandross, probably one of the best musicians of all time. He was turned down plenty of times, but kept persevering because that's all he wanted to do. So I know you want to try and have another option in case you don't become successful in one sphere, but if you really put your mind to it, like a guy like Ashwell did, he wanted to play South Africa. That's all he wanted to do. With a whole host of setbacks, he eventually fulfilled his dream and had an unbelievable test career.
Yes, thank you. And Ash, how important is it to sort of have that grounding? Because what I really want to do is to give practical things, for people that's watching out there today, to say, look, I'm sitting there, I don't have a job. Maybe the COVID thing is, I don't have a job, or I don't see myself being a South African cricket player because, I come from Galvindale or whatever. Come from Bloemendal or wherever it is, and I can't see myself getting there. So I want to really go into practical tips. So we've identified that number one is having a strong faith, so a thing that drives you on the inside in the midst of great pressure. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, we all have dreams, and I like to encourage people to dream big. I like to encourage my children to dream big as well. But you have to have faith as well with that. I mean, I think when you find yourself in certain situations in life, you might feel that kind of the world is against you, or you might feel that, there's always people that's more powerful than others. You might feel that the powerful people of the world are pulling the strings in directions that's not kind of including you. But you see, if you don't have faith, then you're always going to think that your destiny is in other people's hands. You're always going to think, well, this coach doesn't like me, or this teacher at school doesn't like me, or whatever, and they kind of hold the key to my future. For me, it was always, like Russell said, with the obstacles in your life, yes, you got to persevere, you got to keep fighting, but you also got to believe that, no, it's not that coach that doesn't like me that's holding the key to my future. You've got to believe that what you are fighting for in life is an opportunity, and you got to believe that God will provide that opportunity for you. And when the timing is right, that you've prepared yourself, and then you get the opportunity, and then you can make the most of that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like a daily grind in terms of fighting for the opportunity, that you got to have the faith that God will provide that opportunity for you. Otherwise, it's easy to say, well, these guys have all the power, they're pulling the strings, and I will never get an opportunity, and then you're kind of leaving it into other people's hands, where for me, I think your faith has got to be strong.
Yeah. Let me just greet some more people here that's joined us. Elusha Peterson, I said, from Cape Town. Debbie Esterhazen, I think, evening. Werner Yu says, Galvindale produced the best sports persons. Yeah, I agree. Amen. Creon Vliesdaal says, Lloyd was everyone's hero. Hey, Lloyd is going to get a big head tonight.
Hy klaar groot kop.
And then Hayden Cunningham says, we're watching you from PE. Oh, Lloyd was Lloyd was, I think, a year or so ahead of me. And he was our cricket captain. We went to Johannesburg together for the EP schools team. And he can tell you about those tours. And I remember opening the batting for EP, and we were facing Western Province. Was the very first game. I'm the first guy facing the first ball, and the guy clean bowls me on the first ball of the tournament. That was really embarrassing on that tour. In any case, so I also want to speak to you guys a little bit because we're talking about perseverance, never giving up. We're saying you must have something on the inside that's helping you out. How important is discipline for you guys? How important is being focused? We spoke about that, and disciplined. How important is discipline? I know there's so many examples of discipline. What do you guys do? Ash, let me start with you. What is your thing with discipline? How important is that for you?
I mean, if I can use one word that has been a massive part of my life, then it's that word, and like I say, those things were instilled by our parents, by our teachers, like Russell said before, and also people like Mr. Simon and Mr. Assumption at Swallows Cricket Club, Soccer Club, and that has been the one thing that sort of kept me going. That's the one thing that I try and teach my children. It's not always that easy to teach it or get it into your children, you know what I'm saying? But I suppose it's if you have that, you can persevere. If you have that one word, built into your daily makeup, then you can kind of push through. You can kind of push through anything. And I mean, for us as sportsmen, there's lots of times where we had to have that. I mean, it's Friday night and the game is the next day, and all your buddies are going out or whatever the case may be, and you got to know what you want in life, and that you got to make those sacrifices, and you have to have that discipline to do that. And I suppose it's the same for somebody. I always Russell made the example of Luther Vandross before, and not having another option, and I kind of started my studies. I never really completed it back in the day with PE Tech. Followed in Russell's footsteps again there with PE Tech, same course, sports admin and marketing and management and those type of things. But I always equated it to, look, my friends, my peers, same age as me, finish school the same time, they all go into university and they're going to try and make it happen there. And I'm choosing a different route and I have to make it happen here. Similar to the Luther Vandross thing, because there wasn't like a bailout. There is no bailout. Yeah. And if you don't have a bailout, you got to make sure that you have discipline. Because if you don't have a bailout and you don't have discipline, then it's tickets for you.
Yeah, exactly. And you, Russell, how important is discipline?
I'm gonna be the first to admit I probably didn't make it as a cricketer because I wasn't as disciplined as Ashwell. When I say discipline, I didn't train as hard as maybe Ashwell did. I didn't take care of my fitness as much as Ashwell did. But I think I've learned from that and tried to incorporate that into my coaching. Because and I must choose my words correctly here, because as coaches of color, I'm a coach of color. I think we don't have the leniencies that maybe, I must get my words right here, big name coaches would have. So if a big name coach were to go out and get drunk with the teammates, it's okay. It's okay. But if a coach of color does that, there's problems. You can't do that. So that's just the way it is in our cricketing world, I think, in South Africa, unfortunately. So I've, in terms of the lessons I took out of not making it as a cricketer because of what I think is maybe a lack of discipline and desire and work ethic that Ashwell had, I've tried to make sure I've made up for it in terms of my coaching, whereas I'm never late. I will never be late for anything. I'm never untidily dressed. I will never have a drink with players or whatever it's going to be. I make sure that I address people the correct way. I talk to people properly because I need to make sure that I'm the most disciplined person in that coaching team as an example to my players. I wasn't that as a player, and Ashwell will know that. And those are the lessons I've learned, because I can tell players, guys, I didn't make it as a cricketer because of this. You need to make sure if you want to make it, you can't do what I did. You need to do it differently. You need to do it the way Ashwell did it, or the way this one did it, or the way this one did it. I can use those examples because I wasn't a great example as a aspiring young cricketer. I gave up very easily. If I understand what I'm saying, as a cricketer, not as a coach, not in my current profession, giving up's not an option. But as a player, I probably had the other option that I could most possibly go into coaching, and that's maybe why I was able to maybe be a bit less disciplined than maybe the professional cricketer was. And I'm being honest when I say that.
Oh. What I'm getting from you guys is, this is that if you're sitting out there, for instance, you have a job, you have a family, you cannot afford to lose your head and fight with your boss, or because you have a family that you have to take care of, and that sort of becomes more important. So you go to work with a thing behind you. It's not just about making money, but it's about looking after my family, and as a father, I'm responsible for doing those things. So I cannot give up, because I have responsibility. I cannot afford to give up. It's like Ashwell was saying, and basically Russell was saying, in our day, your parents were not going to pay for your university. And if they did pay, that it was with blood, sweat, and tears. So there is no way that you need to make something of your life. So you cannot afford to give up. And I want to say to people out there that's listening to us, you cannot afford to give up on your family. You cannot afford to give up on your job. Jobs are difficult at the moment. If you have a job, you're lucky, you're blessed. Keep at what you're doing, and don't quickly give up on your life. Maybe there's somebody there that's thinking thoughts of, I'm going to give up my life. You cannot give up fight. Like you hear Russell and Ashwell saying, if you're going to make it in life, you have to be disciplined, get a drive from the inside, and do not give up. Do not give up. If I was in church, I would have said hallelujah, and you guys would have said amen. Justin, Justin is saying hello from Cape Town, and Creon is also saying, he says, Mr. Assumption pushed, and Ashwell pushed harder and scored 51 goals in one season for Swallows Soccer Club. Is that right, Ash?
Sometimes I sit and think I should have become a footballer rather.
Ash, I remember I know you were a clean sheet against you, Ash.
I remember you were a very good soccer player, Ash. I remember that.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was very difficult football in those days. I mean, we had Blackpool. I actually joined Blackpool. I don't know what happened. They came to my house. I was still playing for Swallows. I was 15 years old. Clint Howley, Russell will know. You guys will know Clint Howley.
I know him. Yeah.
Clint Howley brought Mr. Valley Brink and those guys. And what must have happened in the lounge, I was in the room, must have decided or done a deal that I'm now going to be playing for Blackpool. So as a 15-year-old, I actually joined Blackpool. I had a plaster, not a plaster. I had a air cast ankle because I hurt my ankle in the Easter tournament. So I got taken out in a match there. So I joined Blackpool as a 15-year-old. There was about 4 games left in the season. So I never really played or trained even with the guys. I was injured at the time. And then there was 4 games left. Blackpool was relegated, and there wasn't another football team for I don't know how many years until I think there was a dodgy guy there with dealings with Micha Warriors. I don't know if you remember the team. There was some dodgy dealings there with Micha Warriors. They didn't last long. And football was kind of what I wanted to do, but then, like we said, I mean, you kind of have to say, you have to make a living, your brother. So I had to go to the cricket and make sure that I was fortunate. Let me say I was fortunate enough to be able to go and do that. But yeah, I mean, maybe in another lifetime, who knows? I could have. People like Dane Clayt could have followed in my footsteps. But I mean, look, I mean. Dane Clayt, we speak a lot. Erasmus, who plays here for Cape Town City at the moment, they're all PE boys, and it's really great to see. I mean, we're talking about role models. Dane didn't play for Swallows, my club. He played for Glenville, obviously, also not too far from where we grew up. And there's a guy there, Wumjan, I think it was Wumjan Nance. Similar role he played at Glenville. As Mr. Simon did with us, as Mr. Assumption did with us, and with people at Hotspurs, the club in Shoulder. There's legendary people who used to invest all the time.
You remember Frankie Skuman? We lived in the same street, up in the street in Galvindale. Yeah. Bafana back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, somebody said there before, Galvindale definitely produced some amazing sportsmen.
No, most definitely. I don't know. It's a phenomenon, actually. When I was listening to you guys the other day, it was really a phenomenon. I remember, for instance, my brothers were basically my inspiration. They started Avalon United. I remember Ronald, that you guys know very well. He made the SA Universities team when it was still Seco Sport and all of those. I remember him telling me he took 4 wickets. They were playing against some team and for EP Universities, and the guys they only made 72 or something like that all out, and the team was 64 for 6 or something, and Ronnie took 4 wickets with 4 balls and ended the match in 1 over. So. Wow. So that's the type of talent we had, and so Galvindale produced lots of those type of talent. It's really a phenomenon. I see Lyndon Lamar says, evening all, I had the privilege of being coached by Ashwell when he was playing EPB and captained by Lloyd at Galvindale. So that's Lyndon saying. So we get all guys. Our time is running out fast. Now, tell me a little bit about what's happening now. I know Russell, you Bangladesh coach, it's a new challenge. Or how long have you been there? A year now already?
Wow, time flies. I started in August, and I was we just finished the series against Zimbabwe. Then I was home for a couple of weeks. Then we were supposed to go to England and Ireland in May. That was postponed. Then Australia were due to play some test against us in June. That's postponed. We're supposed to go to Sri Lanka in July. That's postponed. And New Zealand's
Wow.
supposed to come to Bangladesh in August, and that's been postponed. So I miss cricket. I'm starting to miss cricket. I'm ready to start working now, but goodness, I'm glad to be at home. I was in Dakar for 3 months, not seeing my family. So I've been home for 3 months now, and although it's not great conditions to be at home in with the COVID-19 all being a challenge, it is fantastic to spend some quality time at home.
Yeah. And what has been the challenges for you in Bangladesh? I know it's a different culture. I know you've got
Yes,
some
it's-
talented guys. The
there's
guys
some-
are
there's some-
talented there. Yeah.
There's some good young players. The big challenge there is obviously the fast bowling resources. There's not a lot of fast bowlers simply because of the conditions they play on. And Bangladesh, whenever they leave Bangladesh, and everybody beat them because they don't have fast bowlers that can compete, and their batsmen don't play against quality fast bowling a lot, so they struggle. So it's definitely some mindset change and some structural changes that we're trying to implement, whether it's our pitch preparations for domestic cricket. Look, spinners is definitely our strength, but if you want to improve, especially away from home, we're going to have to start producing fast bowlers, and we're going to have to start getting better at playing against fast bowling. But it's a tough place to be in because of the number of people. There's 165 million people in a very small country. But Fritzy, if you think cricket is big in South Africa and Australia and England, it is nothing until you go and work in the subcontinent. Yeah, as cricket more. It is unbelievable. Here in South Africa, we've got 60 million people, and we support rugby, some support soccer, some support cricket, some support boxing. There, 165 million, Allah watch almal net cricket. It is just the passion for the game is at a totally different level. Ashwell knows there's nothing like it. It's to coach a team in the subcontinent is totally different to coaching a team anywhere else. So, well, that's my experience thus far. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a great learning experience.
And Ashwell, I know you Cobras coach. How long have you been in the job now? It's a couple of years, isn't it?
Yeah, it's three and a half years now that I've been in the role. But like Russell says, I mean, it's completely different. As I said earlier, it's very different to I'd say probably the second toughest thing after raising children. So yeah, look, I mean, but it's a great experience, you know. I spoke to Vernon Philander again. I mean, he's a close friend of mine. He's kind of on the verge of retiring. He retired from playing for South Africa. He still wants to play a little bit at maybe our level. And he's kind of also leaning towards coaching. I said, Vernon, one thing you have to learn. When the Vern has the ball in the hand, the Vern knows exactly what he's going to do with that ball. Now, you can tell somebody exactly what to do, but you can't guarantee what you're going to get to after you've told that person.
Absolutely.
You can't guarantee what you're going to get after you told that person. So, look, at the end of the day, it's not about getting players to do what you did. It's about getting players to believe in themselves, to believe that the skill that they have is good enough. And Russell's got a whole lot more experience than what I have. So that's been the learning in the I'd say in my sort of my first 3 years. That's what I've learned. You know, it's not about telling people how you do it. This is how you do it. It's getting them to believe that whatever they have, the skill, the ability that they have is good enough to do the job. They need to believe in themselves, and that's the bottom line there, I suppose. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was so excited when I saw a lot of your Cobras team guys come through for the SA team. That's a real feather in your cap. And I think because we're coming to the end of our broadcast now, this was such a nice conversation, and we can go on and on. But one of the ways of not giving up and sticking out there and not getting into a state of depression about your situation is to help others and to impart into other people's lives. And that is what you guys, both of you are coaches, that's what both of you are doing, because Russell and Ashwell, you guys know that to coach a team is not just about telling them how to play cricket, because all of them already know how to play cricket. It's really about man managing and making friends and helping the younger generation to be better. So, do you guys enjoy this role that you're in right now,
It's a,
helping others, Russell?
it's a great point to make there, because we often find that when players are struggling with form, they become very insular. They worry about their own performances. They worry about their techniques. They worry about their preparation. And one of the ways we try and get them to perform better is by trying to get them to work with another player. So to take the focus off themselves, take the focus off their practice, of their preparation, and try and put some energy into another player in the team that might be struggling with a little bit of form. And more times than not, just taking that focus off yourself takes a little bit of pressure off you, it frees you up, and you can play a lot better. So exactly what you're saying there, that no matter how depressed or dark your situation is, always trying to help someone else lessens the burden big time for you, not just as a cricketer, but as a person as well. So it's a great point to make.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. A guy just, yeah, we've got about 4 minutes left. Hardly Afki asks, and anyone can take the question. He says, hearing you guys talk about your parents, teachers, coaches, and friends, keeping you guys on the right path, was there ever guys that wanted to lead you astray? And how did you deal with it?
No,
Anyone of you?
just in my street, Avalon Crescent, you know. I don't know if I can say this. I was part of like the nerd team. It was me, Tiffy, Fritzy, Blugnout, Camelus Forrie. We used to be, I must pick my words close now, but we were like I can't use the word, we were the nerds, and we used to play cricket against the smokers. So it was the smokers against us, and the smokers were like the cool guys. They thought they're going to, and there were plenty guys that you should try and lead us astray. Come, have a smoke here. Nah, ook we're playing soccer. Nee, ons gaan uit for a dop. Nee, guy, I got cricket tomorrow. Let's go to the fountain tonight, guys. Now I got a double header this weekend. Saturday, Sunday, I can't come, guys. So flat out. And I think, Fritz, at the end of the day, life is all about choices. You can either choose to do that or you can choose to do that. Ultimately, it's the choice you make that you've got to live with. No matter what you choose, it's a decision that you can make, and you can choose whether you want to do the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's about
Ash, you want to say something about that? Who led you astray? Who wanted to lead you astray?
Now look, I
mean, me.
I couldn't have answered it better. You know, I think Russell hit the nail on the head, and those kind of distractions, if you like, they were all around us all the time. You know, and some of your friends, obviously, sadly, I mean, fell by the wayside. I mean, I'm not kind of embarrassed to say that besides Lloyd, I mean, there's a whole host of guys at Garvanhill Cricket Club that was probably more talented than what I was, and they could have done a whole lot more than I did in the game. You know what I'm saying? And maybe just here and there, it was maybe discipline and being led astray. And yeah, I mean, you got to be strong in those moments. You got to be strong in those moments. You know, you got to have that discipline. It comes back to that same word again. When you're making that decision, and it can be hard because it's your peers, and you have to say no all the time, and it feels like. I remember, I'll never forget, actually, when I moved to Cape Town, I had a choice, and Russell talks about choices. This was a massive choice for me. When I moved to Cape Town, I had a choice of living with Vincent Barnes, who you guys will know very well, who's one of the Cobras, or Herschel Gibbs. And
you chose wisely.
Say no more.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I'm not living with Gibbs. I'm not going to come up with a reason every night to say, no, I'm staying home. You can go out. It's okay.
And you know, Gibbs was one of those that had supernatural almost talent. So he can
go
sleep
for 2 hours and score 150.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a great example. Great story. Great example.
Oh, thank you so much. And I want to say, guys, all the blessings to you. I pray for you. I keep you guys in my thoughts, and you guys are a great inspiration to us. We don't worry about the critics, and there's always supporters and people that love both of you. and I wish Cobras will do well this year, Ash. And,
Thanks,
and on
Fritzy.
this year, I don't know if you guys are we still going to play cricket this year or whatever.
I don't know.
Or the next competitions. And Russell, I know Bangladesh is a challenge, and I know you, but you're surrounded by South Africans there, I believe.
Yeah, I've got
Neil,
some good coaches, some good guys around there.
yeah, so I wish you guys all of the best, and thank you for spending this hour. So the hour went by so quickly. This hour with me today. God bless. Thank you very much, guys. If you just want to say
Thanks,
goodbye
Fritzy.
quickly.
Cheers,
Thanks.
Fritzy. Thanks, Ash. Thanks, Ash. Good seeing you,
Yeah.
Fritzy. Stay safe,
God
everyone.
bless.
Thanks, Russell. Thanks,
Okay.
Fritzy, and thanks
Okay.
to all the guys who tuned in to come and watch as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, bless you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Remember, next week we're speaking a little bit about the COVID-19, and I'm going to try and get some doctors on board, and so that we can help people who are sick. And we pray for all those people that are sick and whose families are affected.